The original Super Mario Bros. Changed how platformers worked. The movement, the enemies, the power-ups, it all just clicked. You could understand the game just by playing it. Then Super Mario Bros. 3 came along and took that original foundation and expanded it into something bigger. World maps, themed kingdoms, a whole sense that Mario lived in a real place with rules. So of course, developers around the world paid attention. Some made great platformers inspired by Mario. Others tried to rebuild him directly. And that's where things get strange. The MSX was a family of home computers popular across Asia in the 1980s, and it became the unlikely home for some of the strangest, unofficial Super Mario games ever made. Today, we're looking at those games, from bizarre bootlegs and clones of clones, to one modern homebrew project that somehow figured out what all of them were actually trying to do. To understand how these games happened, you have to understand the market they came from. South Korea in the 1980s had its own home gaming scene, built not around the NES, but around MSX-compatible hardware. One of the key machines was the ZMX, basically MSX internals in a game console shell. Cartridges, controllers, the whole thing. And one of the most important companies in that scene was Zemina. They started in Korea's early bootleg software market, distributing copied Japanese MSX games. But this is where the legal picture gets interesting. Before 1987, Korea had no copyright law covering computer programs at all, so copying foreign games was completely open. But when that law came in, it only protected the code, not the concept. So companies found a workaround. Instead of copying foreign games directly, they would rebuild them from scratch. Same concept, new code. That way they had something they could actually sell. That's why this scene produced so many strange games. The market was there, the hardware was there, and the legal environment made it possible. Once Korean developers were building their own versions of famous games, Super Mario Bros. Was an obvious target. Superboy was Zemina's answer to Mario, a series of platformers built for the MSX and ZMX market. Superboy 1 and 2 were Zemina's first attempts at building their own Mario-style games, and what they showed pretty quickly is that copying Mario is harder than it looks. The blocks, the pipes, the enemies, that stuff is easy to replicate. The hard part is the feel, how it controls, how the mechanics connect. Superboy got the outside right and missed almost everything underneath. Now Superboy 3 improved on that. Better controls, you could finally kick shells, fireballs actually bounced, but it also got weirder, mixing Super Mario Bros. 3 visuals with Super Mario World enemies. Unfortunately, Zemina never made an actual Super Mario Bros. 3 clone. They went on to Superboy 4 before eventually breaking up. If you want the full story of Superboy and Zemina, I made an entire video about it. But that wasn't the last we saw of Super Mario on the MSX. Another company came along and made an actual clone of Super Mario Bros. 3. That company was Clover, and Super Bros. World 1 is the closest thing in this whole lineup to a real MSX Super Mario Bros. 3 clone. It has the intro sequence, it has an overworld map, it has little stage panels and bonus houses, it has the card flip minigame at the end of stages where you can earn extra lives, and it has a Toad-looking character running the slots minigame who looks like he was drawn in MS Paint. But Super Mario Bros. 3 wasn't just bigger because it had more stuff. It was bigger because all that stuff worked together. The map gave you choices, the levels had rhythm, the secrets made every world feel layered, and the power-ups changed how you approached the game. Everything connected. Super Bros. World 1 copies the idea of that larger structure, but the MSX couldn't really handle a game like Super Mario Bros. 3, and the cracks show up pretty fast. The scrolling is choppy, and the power-ups are just a mushroom and a fire flower. No super leaf, no Tanuki suit, and the items come out of the boxes randomly. Sometimes you get a P-switch, and sometimes what appears to be a saw blade, which is less of a power-up and more like a power-down. You also can't move backwards through the levels the way you can in Super Mario Bros. 3, which makes everything feel cramped. And for some reason, walking into a shell kills you. You have to jump onto it to kick it forward. The game is also genuinely difficult. Not because it's well designed, more because enemies spawn in nasty spots, and the levels feel assembled rather than built. But the enemy that really defines the experience is this creature that shows up regularly and follows you. It looks like some kind of weird Boo-like creature, but it doesn't care if you look at it. It doesn't stop when you turn around. It is fast, it is relentless, it will chase you through an entire stage, and the moment it touches you, you are pretty much done for. There are no mistakes allowed once it appears. and the game itself only has 2 worlds. I pushed through the whole thing. The choppy scrolling, the random saw blades, that weird creature. And when I finally reached the end, it just kicked me back to the title screen. No ending, nothing. Apparently there is supposed to be an ending, but the game glitched out for me. Go figure. And that World 1 in the title, that was probably meant to set up future installments. Those never happened either. And yet, for an MSX game trying to rebuild the legendary Super Mario Bros. 3 from scratch, you have to respect the ambition. World maps, bonus areas, boss fights, even its own takes on the music. It really went for it. And somehow, this story gets even stranger. Not long after Super Bros. World 1 came out, another Korean company took the game, swapped out the graphics, built new levels on top of it, and released it as an entirely new game. A clone of a clone. Let's talk about that. Super Bio Man is essentially Super Bros. World 1 with a different coat of paint. Different graphics, different character, some new levels, and somehow, it's kind of a better game. The first thing you notice is that the protagonist is actually kind of cute. Not trying to be Mario and falling short cute, just his own little thing. And the level design, while still janky, feels slightly more considered. The stages are a bit more interesting to move through. The most important improvement was that relentless Phanto Boo creature barely shows up. It's almost completely gone. I think I saw it in one stage. That alone makes the game more playable. The boss rooms feel a little more polished too. The whole game has this slightly higher production feel to it. And this time, the game's ending actually worked. And here's the thing I cannot get over. Super Bio Man was a real commercial product. So what we have here is a company ripping off another company that was itself ripping off Nintendo. The audacity, the layers, it's almost admirable. Super Bio Man 2 and 3 are either incredibly rare or effectively lost. So we're jumping straight to Super Bio Man 4, which is convenient because it shows where the whole lineage ended up. The answer is roughly the same place. 2 worlds, similar structure, but the graphics are improved, the level design is a bit more polished, and it's clear that whoever was making these games had gotten more comfortable with the hardware and the formula. It doesn't reinvent anything, but it also doesn't feel like it needs to. By Bioman 4, this game had become its own weird little thing. A series of Korean MSX platformers with Mario's skeleton inside them, slowly building their own identity. And that's where the story could have ended. But in 2020, someone decided to ask a completely different question. Not, can we make a Mario clone for MSX? But can MSX actually run Super Mario World? And the answer is going to surprise you. Every game we've looked at today was trying to fill a gap in the market. Can we make our own Mario for this hardware? Can we sell it? Can we get away with it? But Deimos, a developer in the modern MSX homebrew scene, wasn't trying to make an MSX Mario game. He was trying to see how far the hardware itself could be pushed. He spent 8 years building a version of Super Mario World for the MSX2, then released it for free as open source. And somehow, it actually works. Now, the MSX2 was a real upgrade over the original MSX. Better graphics, more colors, higher resolution, but it still wasn't built for the kind of smooth, layered, fast-scrolling action the Super Nintendo could do. Not even close. The first thing that hits you is how much of Super Mario World's movement actually made it over. You can carry shells through pipes, throw them upwards. There are pipes that launch you out like cannons, just like the SNES game. You can even run sideways up pipes. The controls are definitely looser than the original, but the responsiveness is there. The feel is there in a way those older bootlegs never quite managed. There are compromises, of course. The cape power-up is gone, replaced with this tornado ability that works along the same lines, and really, it's close enough. And then there's Yoshi. Yoshi made it into this game, except here, instead of sticking out his tongue, he inhales enemies, like Kirby. I also ran into this hilarious bug where I hopped off Yoshi to collect a Yoshi coin, and when I got back to Yoshi, his actual head had turned into a Yoshi coin, and I accidentally collected it. So for the rest of the level, Yoshi walked around completely headless, and somehow that did not slow him down at all. This is a genuinely impressive demake. It respects the source material, handles the technical limitations honestly, and delivers something that actually feels like the game it's based on. That's the thing none of the old clones ever quite managed. They really only copied what Mario looked like. This one understood what Mario felt like, and somehow figured out how to translate that onto a machine that should not have been capable of it. These games are more than just bad knockoffs. Some of them are bad knockoffs, let's be fair. But there's just something kind of wonderful about all of this too. Think about what these developers were actually doing. They were working on hardware that wasn't built for this, in a country where the consoles these games were based on weren't even legally available. Recreating something that they may have only seen in screenshots or heard about secondhand. And they still tried. They still shipped something. And for a lot of people playing on MSX hardware in Korea back then, these weird unofficial versions were their Mario games. That's the part I keep thinking about. Not whether these games were good in the traditional sense, most of them weren't, but they're artifacts from this strange moment where developers were trying to reconstruct one of the most important games ever made from the outside in. Mario became so iconic that people around the world felt compelled to rebuild him from scratch with whatever they had. And yeah, the shells feel wrong, the scrolling is chunky, and there's a creature that will ruin your entire day. But somewhere in there, you can still feel what they were reaching for. And then decades later, one person sits down and spends 8 years of his life building Super Mario World for a machine it was never meant to run on, and then releases it for free because he just wanted to give something back to the community he loved. That's not a knockoff, that's devotion. These aren't the Mario games Nintendo made, but they're proof of just how far Mario's reach actually went. All the way to hardware nobody expected, in places Nintendo never planned for, made by people who just really love this game. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe for more videos like this. And if you want to hear more about Zemina and Superboy, I'll leave that up here in a card for you. Thanks for your time today. Goodbye.